It's been a month now that Nagorno-Karabakh is in the midst of a hellish war. On the morning of September 27, residents of Stepanakert woke up to an unusual and thunderous noise. Azerbaijan just attacked the capital of Nagorno-Karabakh with missiles. After 2 days of hesitation, a group from our team hit the road. From Yerevan in Armenia to Stepanakert in Artsakh, which is what Armenians call Nagorno-Karabakh. Other cities of the regions are the object of shellings besides Stepanakert. Martuni, Martakert, Hadrut, Askeran are also under fire. Despite the danger, the capital was mobilized. All those who were not at the front line were gathered to bring them help. In a local food court, the women of Stepanakert got on with their jobs, preparing salads, soups and sandwiches for everyone and for free. The dining hall became the place where we journalists and the military discussed the situation. In Hadrut, the situation was tense. The city was almost deserted since the first strikes on the city. Several houses were damaged. When we arrived there, we could hear the fighting along the front line. On the first day of the war, a missile struck one of the houses and killed a resident who died instantly. In the city's hospital, the wounded soldiers came in trucks. The medical center was overloaded and the doctors didn't have a single minute to rest. Azerbaijan indiscriminately targets both civilians and the military. Armenia's officials and Artsakh's officials talk about ethnic cleansing, crime against humanity, and genocide. Yet, the international community only observes in silence. On October 1st, our team went to Martuni to see the house of the first victims of the war, a grandmother and her grandchild. On the ground, we heard the shell climbing with the swish of a rocket and then striking the city square. By luck, we could escape. This was not the case for our French colleagues from the Le Monde newspaper. Alain Caval and Raphael Yagobzadeh were heavily injured by multiple rocket launchers. Their driver, a young man of 20-year-old, died with fragments of shells pushed in his flesh. The next day, we went to Martuni again. Despite imminent danger, women prepare 100 to 150 pieces of bread every day to feed the soldiers on the front line. For the villages, there is no alternative. They have to protect their land. In Stepanakert, the bombardments were becoming more and more regular, more and more deadly. We spent 2 days in the shelter of a school to avoid the shelling. It was impossible to go outdoors. The offensive against civilians was launched and hasn't stopped yet. In 30 days, the civilian infrastructures, including schools, kindergartens, and houses, were destroyed. More than 40 civilians died, and 116 others were wounded. Most of the weapons used by Azerbaijan are banned by conventions under international law. Grads and smerches embedded in the buildings of towns and villages are multiple rocket launchers that target large areas, killing and injuring everyone. In only 1 month, Stepanakert has lost its splendor. People do not smile anymore, the streets are emptied, and those whom we have met are hiding in the shelters. They are exhausted and worried. They've barely seen the light of the sun. In total, 7,800 residences, 720 vehicles, 1,310 public infrastructures were damaged or destroyed. More than 900 Armenian soldiers aged 18 and over are dead. More than 40 civilians lost their lives and more than 100 were wounded. In 4 weeks, approximately 60% of the Artsakh population, which represents 90,000 people, left their homes. Despite all that, the international community simply condemned this humanitarian catastrophe without taking action. The war is not over, and it is even possible that it just started. Every day, we journalists and cameramen are on the ground, informing people about the ongoing humanitarian disaster happening in front of our eyes. Unfortunately, it is impossible to say when we will head to Artsakh to announce and cover the end of the war.